got to check out We Live in Time out in theaters, and it's time to decide if it's a good time or a bad time. Welcome Cinema, where we focus on a film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema. Let me know down in the comments below if you watched We Live in Time. Is it good, is it bad, or somewhere right in the middle, or if you're waiting for this review to decide if you're going to see it or not. You can like this video if you enjoy it, subscribe if you haven't already to join in the film culture community where we talk about a lot of cinema as a whole, and getting right into synopsis. An up-and-coming chef and a recent divorcee find their lives upended upon a chance encounter within this second-spanning, romantic, moving love story. And getting right into the positive, directed by John Crawley. I'm not familiar with his work, haven't watched any of his other movies, but the directing is quite well done. All the different subtle movements, the emotions that you get from the cast, what we get out of Florence, Pugh, and Andrew Garfield. I like them as actors, and their chemistry on screen is undeniable for the nature of this love story. There's some stylistic editing where the events take place out of order within this decade-spanning event. What we're getting out of there's different things within about the first half hour. You pretty much know the ending of their story, certain things that take place and certain events that manages to reveal what is all going to go on, but it still becomes compelling to some nature because of the buildup of certain events, certain things that happen in between, putting the puzzle pieces all together to make one story that is interesting by its style. I'm always on board for this when it has the purpose that it really needs, building up this story. And for me personally, I love romance dramas or things that go along the lines of this, and there is a sense of what it's diving into, the cancer illness that you're touching on with Florence Pugh's character, how you're touching on that is sensitive with its subject, being able to sustain the nature of the story, not being and diverting too far into this harsh comedy or anything that throws off the tempo of the love story, or something that can divert your attention from the emotions that are going on screen. And of course, with the chemistry, you're just able to enjoy the time, have some emotions at different moments that really works effectively to the nature of what it wants to pull out of you, and therefore it can succeed in many ways. Just what it builds upon its characters and touches on certain things in a different style because of the way it goes out of order with a bold and stylistic choice that ultimately can work for some regards, which was surprising for how it seamlessly led into something else. You catch on pretty quickly how it's doing that, even if you don't always know which event is going to come next, how much older or how much younger they are within that span of time, within the story that it's all culminating within this one film. And so there's touching moments, people that, whether you are experienced as a romantic, married, or someone that's single such as myself, that is just being able to enjoy this type of film and touching on the matter for the subject that it really builds upon, touches on the idea of family and the lack of family, being single, and the chance happenstance that is believable still to the nature of how that all goes about because of their performances and the chemistry that all works together on screen by the end. And going into the mix elements, whether it could really work for someone or if it is not your type of thing, this is an A24 style produced studio film, and for some people that may turn you off because they often go into weird shenanigans, stylistic choices that really throws off the tempo and is just made to be really cool, even if it's, whether it has an effect and meaning on the story or not. This one is one of the more tame ones, so if you're a general movie audience goer, then this one will possibly work more effectively for you. Obviously there's the out of order sequence, but the story structure is still fairly straightforward as long as you're able to track and follow along with bouncing from one place to the other. There's obvious clues of what point of their life you're in, whether she has the cancer, whether she's not, and how the relationship works out. before they're together and then when they're together, and different points in between. How you're establishing the characters all throughout makes it fairly easy to track, though it may not be for everyone still if you just want a straightforward narrative at the basis of that. But there also, if you're an A24 fan that wants all of the weirded out things, the stylistic choices that go way out there and make the story creative for the sake of being creative, this is, like I said, a tamed down one. It's more structurally sound, but if you just want to support A24 for the sake of being A24, then you'll be trying to watch this anyways, because it does have a finite story that does have some sound, minute grounds to work upon, build upon this romance drama, have a little bit of comedy, and touching on the emotions just a little bit. So just depending on what sort of person you're in, that's sort of all the details I want to inform you on. But going into the negatives, like I mentioned, with the stylistic choice to make this out of order, while I like the attempt and still am able to track along, and there's still the emotions that flow along with the story, it's a bold choice that sometimes sacrifices the structural flow of the story, and it becomes dependent on your attention to the screen. And well, yes, grabbing your attention is one thing that a film needs to do in order to suck you into the immersion of the story. And it did that in some sense, but it at the same time can sort of take you out of the story, because you have to constantly re-engage with the thought process of where it all is tracking. It'll definitely work for some, and it still did work for me to some extent, but without it having a flow through just a sequential order, there was feeling like it didn't have a true purpose to being out of order, besides the stylistic choices of being something different, not being straightforward. And some of the romance ideas, there's something we've seen before, and so it feels like they're trying to do something different with the editing, which isn't a bad thing. But the bold choice, without creating something new and original for the plot, or without having purpose behind placing events out of order and making it so there's stronger reveals later on, there's reason to where pieces of information are led here and there, but then later on there's more meaning behind what is revealed ahead of time, placed at the beginning of the film, with how it's editing its film. It ultimately just feels like a film that forgot to place its film in order. And so while it did effectively deliver on some of the emotions, some of the good story beats where I see the good story there's some things where it gets tripped up, where this is my type of film for not only the romance, but the drama, what it's doing with its cast and characters. And there's certain moments where it just doesn't sing as proudly because of the nature of making you have to re-engage with what the film is doing, what the moment is taking you into. And there are a couple moments where I thought the film was on its ending moments by the music, by the flow of what was all going on happening, and then there was 30 or 15 minutes left of the film that followed on, which didn't necessarily give me a bad rap on what I was thinking for the story as a whole. But at the same time, it took me out of the emotional moment that could have led up to a stronger ending, because I ultimately didn't know how to trust the film on where it was ultimately going to end. It still left me with some good feelings for what the film was doing as a whole, but without the emotional buildup and things that were going in wavelengths ups and down throughout the film, it sort of threw off some of the tempo. Even if I still see the vision, what they were crafting with the bold choice, and me being able to appreciate it as a whole, there's just some moments that didn't have my attention going all the way through because it was testing what it was doing with the stylistic choice. So that's just my review for We Live in Time, which I have to rate a 7 out of 10. Let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts were on We Live in Time. Is it good? Is it bad? Or somewhere right in the middle? Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already to join in the film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. So that's just all, and make sure to do yourself a favor and go watch a movie.